Elvis, there have been a lot of rumors about your love life. Did you meet anyone special in Germany?
Not any special one. There was a little girl that I was seeing quite often over there that her father was in the Air Force, and actually they only got over there about 2 months before I left. I was seeing her, and she was at the airport when I left, and there were some pictures made of her, but it was no big romance.
Some say Elvis Presley never left. Fans have watched Pastor Bob Joyce, certain they're glimpsing the king in disguise. The height, the voice, even the way he scratches his left ear, every detail fuels the mystery. And now, as whispers reach a fever pitch, Pastor Bob declares he's ready to tell all. Is the king of rock and roll truly gone? Or did he choose a life of peace away from fame? This confession could change everything. The tale of Pastor Bob Joyce and the legend of rock and roll. Some believe that Elvis, the king of rock and roll, might not have passed away, but instead chose a life of peace under a new name, Pastor Bob Joyce. This pastor's rich voice, mannerisms, and expressions bear such a resemblance to Elvis that fans wonder if the king is still with us, living a quiet life right in plain sight. Their physical likeness is striking. Both men share high cheekbones, a sharp jawline, and those iconic arched eyebrows. The resemblance feels almost intentional, as though Elvis has returned with subtle changes, yet is still unmistakably himself. But it isn't just the facial similarities. Both men have a unique habit. They frequently scratch their left ear in the exact same way. This small, specific gesture feels like an undeniable link, as if even the most personal habits followed Elvis into his new identity. Could these clues be mere coincidence, or could the king of rock truly be hiding among us as Pastor Bob Joyce? The mystery continues, leaving fans eager for answers. Beyond mannerisms, more physical details deepen the mystery. Pastor Bob stands at 6 feet tall, matching the king's height. They even share the same shoe size, an uncommon size 11, and both have a similarly athletic build. Each piece of information adds to fans' belief that this pastor could indeed be him, living quietly outside the spotlight. Then there's the voice. When Pastor Bob speaks, it's hard to miss the similarity to that famous Southern drawl. The resonance, the depth. Listeners say it's chilling. And when he sings during sermons, it's as though the king of rock and roll himself is singing. Fans feel a spark of something familiar, especially when he sings gospel, a genre close to his heart throughout his career. Pastor Bob's love for gospel music feels like more than coincidence. His song choices often align with those the king held dear, revealing a connection to the music that transcends time and identity. His performances carry an intensity and emotion that echo a passion he had for the genre. But it's not just appearance and voice. Pastor Bob's gestures and movements mirror the iconic stage presence. Observers notice the way he moves his hands, even the way he holds his posture. When he raises his hands or gestures passionately during a sermon, some say it feels as though he's returned. Fans also see similarities in their personalities, adding to the theory that perhaps the king of rock is hiding in plain sight as Pastor Bob Joyce. He was known for his kindness, humility, and humor. Even as a superstar, Pastor Bob is similarly praised for his warmth, sincerity, and deep connection with his congregation. This blend of compassion and charisma only fuels the belief that his spirit might live on in Pastor Bob, both in presence and in the humble way he serves others. One compelling clue lies in the timeline. Officially, he passed away in 1977, but rumors of sightings lingered for years, at gas stations, diners, and even concerts. Many find it believable that he might have faked his death to escape the pressures of fame. Interestingly, Pastor Bob only began gaining attention years after his supposed death, giving time for a retreat from the spotlight, a reinvention, and a quiet life as a pastor. For someone who was once one of the world's most famous figures, the idea of stepping into a new, simpler life makes sense. He could sing, connect with people, and inspire them in a deeply personal way, free from the demands of stardom. As Pastor Bob, he might find peace in his faith, delivering messages of hope and sharing songs that were known to be his favorites. Each performance, for fans, becomes another link in the chain of mystery, a moment where the past meets the present. Pastor Bob's deep love for gospel music, his uncanny resemblance, and his familiar voice make each of his performances feel like a hidden tribute. Observers feel transported back to the days of his peak when Pastor Bob sings. Even skeptics, who claim many people can resemble each other, admit that the similarities between Pastor Bob and him are eerie. Some suggest it's a coincidence, but each new detail, his appearance, voice, habits, and choice of music, makes that harder to believe. What truly fuels this belief, though, is Pastor Bob's aura. He carries that same magnetic charisma, the kind that draws people in, making them feel part of something greater. People who attend his services often describe a powerful familiarity, as if they've encountered a cherished figure from the past. It's more than appearance or voice. It's the feeling that they're experiencing the essence of him. The memories, mystery, and shared love for gospel music create a tapestry of belief. Many wonder if Pastor Bob Joyce is more than just a preacher, if he might be the king himself, choosing a quieter life, but still touching hearts with that timeless warmth. The likeness is striking. Let's explore further how Pastor Bob's story seems to echo the legacy of the king. While it remains speculation, the theory that Pastor Bob Joyce could be him lives on. There's no solid proof connecting Pastor Bob to the king of rock and roll, but the idea has captivated fans and fueled endless curiosity. The thought that maybe he's out there, living a quiet life and singing in a small-town church, feels like a dream, one that's hard to dismiss. Skeptics point to the age difference. He was born in 1935, while Pastor Bob was reportedly born in 1952, making them 17 years apart. Yet some fans believe records could have been altered and identities changed. To them, the idea of him faking his death and starting a new life isn't far-fetched, especially considering the many similarities between these two men. Pastor Bob's mannerisms add another layer to the mystery. Observers note that his gestures, posture, and interactions resemble the king's iconic stage presence. Fans say watching Pastor Bob is like seeing the king himself, a man whose charisma lit up every room. Whether swaying to music or strumming his guitar, Pastor Bob's movements evoke memories of him as if he never left. Then there's the voice. Pastor Bob's tone, its warmth, depth, and soulful quality makes listeners feel as if he's speaking through him. It stirs the same emotions that made the king so unforgettable, creating a powerful connection for those who believe. Some believe that, weary of fame, he chose a new life as Pastor Bob, finding peace away from the chaos of stardom. To these believers, it's as if he sought a simpler life, a way to reconnect with music and faith without the burden of his celebrity status. The passion for gospel music shared by both men remains a powerful link. For him, gospel wasn't just music. It was a refuge, a source of strength and comfort. Pastor Bob centers his ministry on gospel, pouring his heart into every song and drawing his congregation into a shared spiritual experience. To fans, this shared devotion feels like more than coincidence. It's a bond that seems to transcend time and identity, as if his spirit continues to touch lives through Pastor Bob. Despite skepticism, believers hold on to the familiar laugh, the gestures, and the pauses in speech, all echoing him These tiny, almost imperceptible details keep the idea alive that maybe he never truly left. For those who see Pastor Bob as more than a preacher, he represents a living legacy of the King of Rock and Roll, a hint that he might still be with us in a quieter, different form, spreading joy and faith. And questions remain about his supposed death in 1977. Officially, he passed away that August, but rumors and sightings persist. Some claim the circumstances left loose ends, suggesting a staged departure. For those who believe he faked his death to escape fame, Pastor Bob's life as a small-town preacher feels like the perfect cover, a peaceful life where he could continue sharing his love for music and faith, far from the relentless spotlight. To believers, the evidence feels undeniable. The striking resemblance, the shared love for gospel, the familiar voice, and the mannerisms, all of it forms a story that's hard to ignore. Skeptics may call it fantasy, but to fans, Pastor Bob feels like a continuation of his legacy. To them, he's a reminder that maybe, just maybe, the King of Rock and Roll never truly left. Through Pastor Bob, they feel his music, warmth, and spirit still reach out, connecting them to the legendary singer who touched the world with his voice and heart. Each clue seems to lead to another. Could Pastor Bob really be carrying his spirit? Pastor Bob and the spirit of Elvis. The resemblance between Pastor Bob Joyce and him is striking. The looks, the charisma, the passion for gospel music. It's all there. Believers argue that the age difference is just a distraction, hiding the obvious signs that his spirit, or perhaps even the man himself, might still be here, quietly living as Pastor Bob. For those drawn to this mystery, it keeps the legend alive in a way no impersonator ever could. If Pastor Bob truly is him, then the King of Rock and Roll never really left the building. He's still here, singing, and reaching the hearts of his listeners. Interestingly, Pastor Bob started his ministry in 1981, just 4 years after his reported death in 1977. For many, this timing feels too perfect to be a coincidence. It's as though he faked his own death and chose a quiet, hidden life as a humble pastor. For fans, this timing isn't random. It's a clue, hinting at a secret truth behind the iconic figure. Imagine the weight he must have felt from the pressures of fame. He was one of the most famous people in the world, always in the spotlight, with every move tracked by the media and fans. A peaceful, private life must have seemed like a dream, a chance to escape the chaos and focus on what he loved most. For him, gospel music was a refuge, a source of spiritual connection and peace. Stepping away from fame to live a simpler, more meaningful life dedicated to faith and music seems like a choice the king might make. To believers, Pastor Bob isn't just a look-alike. His presence, warmth, and familiar gestures remind them of the man they adored. The way he stands, moves, and interacts with people carries that same captivating charm. For those who believe, it feels like he didn't disappear. He simply re-emerged with a new purpose, trading fame for a life of quiet service. Then there's his voice. Pastor Bob's deep, resonant tone strikes an unmistakable resemblance. When he sings, it's as if he himself is performing once again. The southern drawl, unique vibrato, and soulful depth all feel so familiar, as though the King of Rock and Roll never truly left. When Pastor Bob sings gospel, he stirs the same emotions that his performances once did. To fans, this isn't just a similar voice. It's his passion for music, echoing through every note. His love for gospel was no secret. Even at the height of his career, he often returned to gospel, finding peace and comfort in its message. Pastor Bob, too, centers his ministry around gospel music, pouring his soul into each song, much like he once did. For believers, this shared devotion to gospel is more than coincidence. It's a link that seems to transcend time and identity. But the clues don't stop at music. Pastor Bob's smile is strikingly similar to that iconic grin. He once had a gap between his teeth that he later closed for his Hollywood image. To those who believe, even his smile feels like another piece of a puzzle connecting the past and present. Decades later, Pastor Bob's smile bears an uncanny resemblance to his. From the familiar curve to the dental work that seems eerily similar, it's easy to see why fans are intrigued. For conspiracy theorists, this isn't just an odd detail, it's another piece of a puzzle that could reveal an incredible story. They believe this resemblance goes beyond chance, pointing to a hidden truth that, for them, feels too compelling to ignore. Skeptics, however, see it differently. They quickly dismiss the theory, pointing out a significant age difference, 17 years, as undeniable proof that Pastor Bob and he couldn't possibly be the same person. To them, the story is just a fantasy fueled by wishful thinking and coincidences. But true believers have a different perspective. They suggest that official records could have been altered, allowing him to create a new life under a different identity. In their view, this escape from fame to live as Pastor Bob isn't far-fetched. It's a chance for the king to find peace, rediscover purpose, and continue sharing his voice without the burdens of fame. They see his transformation as a deliberate act, a carefully crafted plan to step away from the limelight, yet stay connected to the world through his music. For these believers, the age difference, the timeline, and every familiar gesture appear as intentional clues left by a man who longed to retreat from the public eye while preserving his bond with fans. They don't see a mere coincidence in these details. Instead, they interpret them as signs of a journey from the intense pressures of superstardom to the tranquility of a simpler, more purpose-driven life. Pastor Bob's calm demeanor, his devotion to gospel music, and his modest, grounded nature all feel like a natural evolution of the man they remember. To them, this shift to a life of faith and music is just another chapter, a quieter chapter for the king, one where he could continue to touch lives without the spotlight. This theory has captured imaginations across the world. The idea suggests that even someone who once stood at the peak of fame might find true fulfillment in a humble life, focused on faith and community. It challenges the notion that fame defines a person's spirit or purpose, sparking a fascination with the mystery and the possibility that the king chose a path away from fame, yet continued to share his heart with others. For fans, this isn't just a conspiracy. It's a hopeful story. It's the idea that maybe, just maybe, he never left, choosing instead to live on in a way that brings comfort and inspiration to those who believe. It's a story that merges past and present, blending the iconic with the ordinary and creating a legacy that lives on, whether through Pastor Bob or in the hearts of those who remember the king's spirit. This theory paints him not as a trapped legend, but as a man who found freedom on his own terms. It suggests that he escaped fame's golden cage to live by his own rules, embracing a quieter, more meaningful life. For fans, it's a story that resonates deeply, echoing the enduring power of his music, spirituality, and compassion. Then, there's the mystery surrounding his supposed death. Officially, he passed away in 1977, but rumors and strange details have lingered ever since. Conflicting reports, a hurried funeral, and countless supposed sightings only fueled speculation. Fans have long wondered if he staged his own exit, hoping to escape the overwhelming pressures of his life. The idea of him faking his death to find peace has a certain allure. For those who believe, his story doesn't end with a tragic passing. Instead, it's as if he orchestrated his own departure, stepping away to begin a new chapter. They imagined that he wanted a life where he could continue to sing, reflect, and connect with people without the relentless demands of fame. If there's any truth to this theory, then the connection between Pastor Bob and him goes beyond a mere resemblance. It becomes a tale of transformation, a quest for freedom and spiritual rebirth. For fans, the possibility that he chose to live as Pastor Bob is the ultimate act of reinvention. It suggests that he escaped the spotlight to embrace a life filled with gospel and purpose, leaving behind the screaming crowds, the paparazzi, and the unrelenting pressures of a rock and roll life. This vision of him choosing a humble, faith-driven existence is almost poetic. It allows fans to imagine him singing his heart out in a small-town church, sharing messages of hope rather than love songs. They see him not as an idol, but as a man who found a new way to reach people, a deeper, quieter way. They believe that through Pastor Bob, he lives on, touching lives not with flashy concerts, but with gospel music and heartfelt sermons. As Pastor Bob, he would have the freedom to focus on what mattered most to him. He could pour his soul into gospel music, rediscovering the joy he once found in singing without the glare of the spotlight. The idea is compelling because it suggests he may have finally found peace, no longer Elvis the icon, but Bob the preacher, spreading faith and joy on his own terms. For believers, the clues add up to more than just a theory. The similar features, the familiar voice, the gestures, and the shared love for gospel all create a picture of a man who never truly left. It's a story that lets fans keep him alive in their hearts, imagining that he might still be out there, reaching people in a simpler, more profound way. The thought of him out there, not as a superstar, but as a humble pastor, is comforting. It's a way for fans to believe that his spirit continues to shine, not through fame, but through faith and love. For those who believe in the theory, Pastor Bob isn't just a preacher. He represents a version of him that chose peace over fame, heart over the spotlight. It's a life rooted in simplicity and faith, a path as inspiring as it is mysterious. This story blends fact, faith, and hope, spinning a tale of a man who may have defied the bounds of fame to find true fulfillment. Pastor Bob's story has already taken on a life of its own, turning into a modern legend that keeps the King's spirit alive. It allows fans to imagine that he never really left, that perhaps the voice that once captivated millions is still out there, sharing warmth and passion in a quiet, unassuming way. To those who cherish this idea, it's not just a theory, it's a legacy. It's a tribute to his spirit, his music, and the deep connection he has with fans who still hold him close to their hearts. The thought of him choosing a humble life as Pastor Bob is a mystery that may never be solved. But the idea itself keeps his legacy alive. His essence, his voice, and his love for gospel music continue to echo, perhaps closer than anyone could ever imagine. Could the King of rock and roll truly have walked away from it all? Is he living among us as Pastor Bob Joyce? It's a question that stirs imagination, a story that lives on in whispers and rumors. Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more twists in this mystery. The king may be gone, but his story, and perhaps his spirit, endures.